Other thing is, cash is king. Particularly if you're going to like flea markets, what we would call flea markets, or I think in the UK they call them boot sales. Or if you're just, again, walking around to those things we talked about, thrift stores or antique stores in Europe or somewhere else, South America. If you're in those places, I think cash is king. So have the cash. Don't just assume that everybody takes American Express. Sometimes it's not the world's most accepted card. And that goes for other credit cards. But if you got them, it works out well as well.
What about brick and mortar retailers? And obviously you can buy toy soldiers there, but what do you have some tips for shopping at a brick and mortar store?
Yeah, I think every time you travel, Google, find out if there's a store, on your way there or at the place where you're going to, whatever city or country it is, and make an effort to go there. Language shouldn't be an issue because it's a universal language. You see a figure, you want it, you point at it, and then they're going to show you how much it is and you pay for it. You're out the door. The other thing I think is that if you're not sure, let's say you're driving somewhere and you're not sure, ask somebody hey, I'm going to Gettysburg. Do you know any toy soldier stores along the way? Absolutely. As you and I know, the OMSS is going to be introducing a new website soon, and we've done a lot of research to introduce that. And so that's going to be a fantastic resource to see what is available in whatever country you happen to be in or you're traveling to. The other thing I would say is give yourself enough time to get there. You're in Singapore, or you're in Sydney, Australia, or you're in Buenos Aires. Take the time to give yourself a little time and look around. And maybe they won't have what you're looking for in the store, but they might have a warehouse somewhere where they keep stuff, and they might say, well, I don't have it here, but I could have it here tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Will you still be in town? So give yourself a little time. You may end up having to go back a second time to pick up what you're looking for. My experience, again, is do your homework before you get there. Give yourself some time. Figure out where the nearest subway, metro, bus line is, because generally you may not have a car, particularly if you're over in Europe, the UK, or in Asia. And take the time to talk to the vendor, the store manager. Just don't go and do a dine and dash in there. Take the time, talk to them, tell them what you're interested in. If you're going onwards to somewhere else, they might be able to recommend somewhere that you didn't even know about. Like, sake of argument, you're in Singapore and then you're going over to Thailand. Well, they might know of somewhere in Bangkok and say, oh, well, if you're in Bangkok, there's this other store. There you go. Bang, you made another connection. The other thing I would advise if you're buying, traveling and buying stuff, is be aware of packaging issues. You came with a full suitcase. You're gonna have to figure out what you're leaving behind if you start filling it up with boxes of toy soldiers, or packing those around, because that is metal. It's not plastic, and so you're carrying a lot of weight around. So that's the other thing. But brick and mortar, I think, is a great way to buy, because not only can you see the thing, you can probably pick it up and handle it. And it gets you a chance to actually see what you're buying, not online, not a picture, not just some voice telling you what it is. You can actually see what it is. And often I found with brick and mortar vendors is that they buy a lot of stock from the makers. And so it may not be on the shelf, but it may be in the back room. They just didn't put it out. And if they don't have it, they may be able to tell you where you can get it. and so I think it's a good thing to do. They're not a growing breed. They're sort of a dying breed, the brick and mortars. And so I think any support that you can give them is always good.
What about antique stores?
Antique stores are a good place because what's happening is and I'm not an antique vendor, but antique stores, if you don't sort of give it to them, where are they finding this stuff? Same place you're looking: estate sales, auctions, thrift stores. And they're buying them up there and then reselling them because they know the value. An antique store isn't in the business to sell junk. That's what thrift stores do. They're in the business to sell stuff that they know will move and they can do a markup on. And so I think that's a good place to go. I have found stuff at antique stores, whether in the city or out in the rural areas. I have found stuff. And so when I'm out driving and there's an antique store, it takes me 5 minutes to park, go inside, take a look, and leave. If there's something there, I'll pick it up because, that's a good place to go to. Antique vendors know what's of value, know what is an antique, and know what moves, and they will pick them up. So whether it's been in Toronto, Southwestern Ontario, Eastern Ontario, and Nova Scotia, I have found things at antique stores. So I never pass one up.
So what can you tell us about sourcing toy soldiers in that category?
Boy, you got to have a lot of time and a lot of patience because I personally, I don't believe a garage sale is a good place to start. Because how many people collect this stuff? And it's, unless you have sort of inside knowledge that that person at that house has a collection, you're going to wade through a lot of stuff that, and it may be a waste of time. One of the things I found that really you're going to maximize your effort is if you got a neighborhood garage sale. So it's not a house, it's a street. And I would just take a wild guess. The older the neighborhood, the more success you're going to have versus, let's say, a brand new development that just went up yesterday. Well, what is it filled with? Young families. If you're looking for, Mark's, not Mark's, I was going to say Fisher Price toys or a stroller, that's a good place to start. Kids' clothes, baby clothes, good place to start, not toy soldiers. But if you're looking and it's a street sale, then you're going to hit 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe a dozen houses in a neighborhood. And all you're doing is you're parking your car in one place and doing a street. And it's like doing 12 individual garage sales. Here in Ottawa, we have what's called the annual Glebe neighborhood. And I don't know what the equivalent would be in Toronto or the GTA, but it's an older area. It's generally thought of as a wealthier area, more affluence. And so when there's a garage sale there, you're liable to find more stuff. And it's not one house, it's hundreds of houses. And you spend the entire day from the moment they sort of fire off the starting gun until it closes. So you could be out there for 8, 9, 10 hours. That's a garage sale worth going to. And that's about all I'll say about garage sales. So unless you have some inside knowledge that, that gentleman or that family had toy soldiers at one time and they're getting rid of them, closest thing you'll get to metal is maybe Dinky Toys. And so I'm not big on garage sales unless it's a volume area. Church sales, same thing. It tends to be stuff that people are getting rid of. I think you'll have more luck going, if you're sitting there and you have the time, is going to every thrift store in your part of your city or in the city. That's what I think antique sellers do. They're looking at what are people just throwing out, because they're giving that stuff away to up here in Canada, we call it Value Village or the Salvation Army or some other charitable organization that's doing it on behalf of NGOs or church organization. You're literally giving that stuff away. You're not selling it to them. You just don't know what to do with it. You leave it at the back door and it shows up on their shelves. Sometimes you'll find stuff that, you just didn't think about. I just did a video on display cabinets. That's where I got one of my largest one. And I think that's a great place to look for display cabinets. Sometimes if you're looking for 1/6 figures, I was at a Salvation Army. I'm not into 1/6, but there were 4 of them. And they were locked up behind a glass case. And why? Because somebody recognized that they had some value. So if you're looking for 1/6, that's a place to go to. Tin plate. If you're looking for tin plate toys, they're probably going to be locked up behind a display cabinet because somebody's Googled them at the Salvation Army or Value Village and realized they're worth more than $1. And that's what they're in the business for, is to raise funds. And so they'll recognize the value. Only once in probably 10 years have I ever seen toy soldiers, and I don't mean just plastic, I mean like metal toy soldiers, at a neighborhood thrift store. And that's just, maybe somebody else will say, oh no, I find them all the time. Wow, let me know.